Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your Jupiter in Sagittarius or Jupiter in the 9th house. My name is Brandon. I do YouTube videos here about astrology, and if you are brand new here and you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, a couple things are going to be down in the description box for you, one of which is going to be a playlist where I go through every single planet and every single house and sign prior to this. So I have done everything between Aries and Scorpio and the 1st and the 8th house. If you have any planets within any of those signs or houses, there's going to be a video in that playlist down there for you. I also have down there a link to generate your birth chart, so you can look at your birth chart to see if you actually have your Jupiter in Sagittarius, or if you don't, or if you have Jupiter in the 9th house. I also going to have all the timestamps down there below as well, so you're welcome to check that out, where I talk about specifically Jupiter in astrology, Jupiter in the 9th house, and then Jupiter in Sagittarius. So I will be talking about those timestamps will be down below for that. So you're welcome to kind of skip around for those things. And this is going to be quite a fun video because this is Jupiter after all, and this is in its home sign of Sagittarius, so one of the more beneficial signs for Jupiter to be in for obvious reasons. And there's a lot we're going to be talking about here today, and I'm really excited to be talking about specifically Jupiter in the sign of Sagittarius, and I'm excited to continue on with this series here. This has been such a fun series for me, and I have been, I'm in the final stretch here. That's really, really exciting to kind of go through and finish this off here. And so, like I said, it's been a long, ongoing series. There's plenty of content down there for you to check out. So feel free to do that. As you know, if you have anything prior to Sagittarius or the 9th house that you want to check out. But yeah, that's really all the kind of logistical upfront type of stuff. I am open for readings at this current moment, so if you are interested in anything with that, my link is down below as well to get in contact with me. So without further ado, let's go into and just talk a little bit about what Jupiter means in astrology. Okay, so we have Jupiter in astrology. Jupiter is going to be the larger of the two benefics. So we have Venus being one benefic and Jupiter being the other benefic. It is a planet that is typically associated with all things that are larger than life, that are philosophical, that are naturally going to give us a sense of faith and meaning throughout our life. Jupiter also has connections to law. It has connections to the legal system, as well as anything that we utilize to understand our worldview and the rules within it. And so Jupiter typically does work a lot with Saturn as well. And so you'll see Jupiter and Saturn kind of being brought together in certain avenues a lot of the time. It's important to understand, much like with Venus, to understand your Mars. With Jupiter, it's important to understand your Saturn as well, because they kind of work hand in hand, much like Venus and Mars do. Now, Jupiter does have a lot to do with our, like I said, our worldview, our perspective, our kind of meaning behind life, or how we prescribe meaning, or how we believe in things. And so Jupiter really wants us to find meaning, find purpose, find answers, find something to preach, to teach, to study, and something that allows us to see and believe in why we are here. I tend to think of Sagittarius as this kind of archetype of just like the perpetual why, right? Someone who always asks why, someone who always is trying to figure out the reason behind something. And that's very much Jupiter. Jupiter is very much wanting to expand opportunity and always asking why or why not. That's kind of something that you'll tend to see with Jupiter throughout just the planetary bodies. It also tends to expand things as well, so it tends to make things larger. It tends to make things easier to access, and it also kind of gives a lot of success in whatever area that Jupiter is in, as well as whatever aspects that Jupiter is kind of making throughout the chart. So Jupiter does naturally rule both Sagittarius and Pisces, and it is considered to be exalted in the sign of Cancer. So in addition to all of those, we also have Jupiter opposite its two rulerships. So opposite of Sagittarius and Pisces, where it rules, it's going to be in detriment in both Gemini and in Virgo. And then opposite its exaltation in Cancer, it is going to be considered fallen in the sign of Capricorn. So we have gone through pretty much most of those, a good half of those. I have not gone through Jupiter and Capricorn or Jupiter and Pisces as of yet. So we will be getting to those in the near future. But Jupiter, because this is a video where we specifically talk about Jupiter in its own sign, I'm going to be talking about this in the next portion with Jupiter and Sag specifically, but there are a lot of kind of disclaimers that I kind of put out there in that specific portion. And so when we talk about dignity, I'm going to kind of talk about it a little bit here. We talk about dignity, there is something of kind of discourse online of how people kind of perceive it and the perspective of that, where people think that, oh, you have a planet in dignity, therefore it's super strong and you don't have anything to complain about, right? There's almost this planetary privilege or dignity privilege that you could tend to see in astrology when placements are in their own sign. And then in the same vein, or actually on the opposite side of it, you can also see a lot of people that feel very disempowered by the language surrounding potentially, you know, Jupiter and Capricorn in the next example that we'll do next season, where there's a lot of, you know, negative worldviews that are kind of just brought upon that person. A lot of people, when it comes to things in detriment, comes to things in fall or in exile, a lot of people will online will speak about it in a way that is very divisive and very disempowering, or very just empowering. And so there's this almost this kind of this desire to live up to the high expectations of a dignified or exalted planet. So just know that that's part of the whole discourse online. So this is going to be a very interesting video, considering it is a Jupiter and Sagittarius video. So we'll be talking about a lot of different things here and within that. But I just want to kind of get that out of the way, so that those of you that have Jupiter and Sagittarius, or Jupiter, if you're watching this video, you don't have Jupiter and Sag, we have in the 9th house, you understand like how it kind of can manifest in those specific signs. What I did also want to say is Jupiter does have a lot more power if you're born during the day. In ancient astrology, it is said that a day chart is more influenced positively by both Jupiter and Saturn, and then a night chart is influenced more positively by either Venus or Mars. By positively, I mean more positively. And so just know that if you were born during the day with your sun between the 12th and the 7th house, you are going to likely experience this Jupiter a lot stronger, even if it is below the horizon, not in that 9th house or up at the top of the chart like other areas might be. So that's pretty much all I have to say here. Yeah. So that's pretty much all I got in me for that part. Let's go talk specifically about what Jupiter means in Sagittarius. Okay, so we have Jupiter in the sign of Sagittarius. As I just said in my previous portion, this is one of Jupiter's home signs. So Jupiter does quite well here. It really enjoys to be in the sign of Sagittarius, where it's at home. It is the philosopher being placed into the kind of, I guess you could say, Garden of Eden, or the specific, you know, environment that really suits them. They're placed in a philosopher's kind of classroom, or have a lot of the things available to them that are supporting Jupiter, which are all things related to law, all things related to you know, the laws of the universe, not just law in regards to the legal system, but law in a overarching kind of way, right? Think about cultural identities. There's a lot of things with Jupiter that speaks to culture, as well as the way that we tend to connect to our culture, connect to cultures around the world. So someone who has a very strong Jupiter, I know quite a lot of people that have pretty strong Jupiters, and they typically are involved with either very different cultural things or very different legal things, and sometimes even a mix of both. And so you can see when Jupiter is strongly placed, and this is something I've said in almost every single domicile video I have done, when Jupiter or any planet is in its own sign, it actually can over accentuate the need for the lesson around that planet. Meaning that if you have your Jupiter in Sagittarius, that doesn't escape you from learning about meaning or belief or the reason behind life, or why we're here, what we're doing, or, you know, all these different things. It doesn't escape you from that. It actually, because it is Jupiter, it actually exacerbates that lesson. It almost makes that lesson even more prominent because of the fact that the planet is in its own sign. And it's something that not a lot of astrologers really bring up, and a lot of the time they tend to look at a lot more of the placements that are not in domicile or not in dignity as something that can just, like, they tend to just gloss over these points as if there's no talking points around a planet in its own sign, when in actuality, because that planet's in its own sign, there's actually more of an emphasis, because that planet knows exactly how to get what it wants and how to bring about those specific things that that planet wants, which in this example is Jupiter, which is all about, you know, this sort of like abundance, this opportunity, this optimism, this kind of connection to philosophy, to religion, to different ideological natures, to kind of just being connected to some different cultural worldview, lots of different things that you can see with Jupiter in its own sign. So I really want to really accentuate that the lessons around Jupiter in its own sign are really strong. So this is why. It's funny because earlier on today, before I was recording this video, I actually stumbled upon a pretty prominent lawyer and just decided to look up their birth chart, and they just so happened to have been a Moon Mercury Jupiter conjunction in Sagittarius, and there are a couple other Sagittarius Jupiters that I know that are lawyers, and so it is pretty prominent when Jupiter's in its own sign to just be very, very brought into that Jupiter space, which is law, logistics, culture, what is right. That's the thing with Jupiter. It's a lot about what is right, what we're here to do. And the thing about Jupiter, like I said in the very beginning here, it's also important to look at your Saturn too, because Jupiter and Saturn are kind of like law and order in a lot of ways, where Jupiter just wants to create, it has optimism, it has ideas, it has all these kind of really big thoughts, and then Saturn's like, okay, let's put some actual form to this, let's put some actual kind of essence into this, and let's find the structure, right? So it's important to know when you have a strong Jupiter, especially if you have your Jupiter specifically in this sign, it's even more so important, and similar with Jupiter in Capricorn. That's kind of the only other one, and also Jupiter in Pisces, so pretty much all those three. It's really important to look at what specifically your Saturn is doing to help kind of really create form around your beliefs, around your meaning. And so I think that's one of the more important ones to bring you to the next kind of, or the complementary energy of Jupiter, which is Saturn, right? And it's funny because this video is about Jupiter, but it's also bringing in that Saturnian aspect, because you can't really talk about one without the other. And when it comes to Jupiter and Sag, they have a really great worldview. They have a really large worldview, a really great perspective that they want to bring. They have a lot of optimism about their life, and yes, it might have came from a very difficult young age, or from a very very certain circumstance, especially if you are particularly a Jupiter in Sagittarius with Pluto in Sagittarius. There's going to be a lot of really deep worldviews that you're going to be asked to really break apart and really synthesize, as well as purify in a lot of ways. Now, Jupiter in its own sign in Sag, it is a fiery sign, so there is a lot of like kind of going out and doing things and trying things and just pushing the boundaries of what you think you can accomplish. That's what Jupiter tends to do in and just in general. It tends to want to just push boundaries, push limits, try something new, find meaning behind things, prescribe meaning to things. And so Jupiter here really wants to give you a specific kind of belief to follow. Now, Jupiter in a fire sign, it's going to have a sense of personal passion to what it believes in. Versus Jupiter in a water sign, there's going to be more of a kind of felt, internal kind of intuitive knowing. So these are the ones that tend to inspire action in others, the ones that can motivate others, the ones that can create community and can create a sense of inspiration in other people, because they have that kind of fiery kind of ignition that Sagittarius brings. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. It's able to kind of create different fires and different little sparks in people, and it's such a beautiful energy for Jupiter to be in when it's in the sign of its own sign in Sagittarius, where it's able to just go out and spread the messages and spread the news and spread these things. So you can see with Jupiter and Sag this like really deep desire to just spread their worldview, spread their beliefs, spread all the things that they really believe in and that they've held dear, and be able to just bring that out. Now, kind of on the kind of back to the point I was saying earlier about Jupiter being its own sign and kind of being too strong, this is where you can see a belief system that does not like to be challenged, meaning that they're raised on a certain belief and they're preaching that belief. And their worldview and their belief might come up against, especially if Saturn's an aspect to that, or if they have other things within their chart that are kind of bringing up other areas of this, that they'll need to kind of contend with that worldview or have people push against that. And because Jupiter is so strong in this placement, it can almost kind of preach because it wants to do that. It wants to teach things, it wants to preach things, it wants to, make things right. It wants to find a way to just bring optimism to people. And so when that worldview is and when that belief specifically is kind of pushed against or kind of challenged, the Jupiter might, because it's in Sag, it might just double down, right, in a certain degree. It can, because it does have a mutability to it, it does have that kind of adaptable kind of nature, so it could be able to kind of work with other people's worldviews, but that is really dependent upon the Mercury placement, the Saturn placement, so many other things within the chart, the Jupiter aspects, of course, to kind of see what else is going on. But there is an aspect of this where you could see someone that's just very strong in their beliefs and preaching, and because it is what they love to do, right? They really do. They came here to teach. They came here to learn. They came here to study. They came here to really teach something to the world in a lot of ways. When you have 9th house placements and Sagittarius placements, it's a lot about really bringing a connection to helping other people believe in something and believe in their meaning, their opportunities, their options available to them, and bring that optimism. It's really, really beautiful. And so you can see, like I said, with Jupiter here, there's almost like a fighting for one's faith. And it's weird because you would think fighting is very Martian, but Jupiter wants to teach something. It wants to teach the power of belief, and belief is so powerful, especially when it's challenged, and especially when it's overly identified with someone, which beliefs and identity are very much interwoven into a lot of our framework of our minds and our ability to comprehend the world. So Jupiter in its own sign is going to have very strong beliefs, it's going to have very strong things, and almost to a degree, like I said, where it can be over-identified with its beliefs, where it is not allowing other people's beliefs to kind of push against it or to fight with it. There's almost this kind of really strong fire, right, of I'm just going to tell my story, I'm going to teach my thing, I'm going to go study this thing, and I'm going to prove it, right? So that's the thing. Jupiter can be so strong in this position that it almost is not, it's unwavering in its belief system. And that's the one caveat of having Jupiter in its own placement, because it can still do this. It can still get a little bit stuck in its ways because it's so philosophical, it's so meaningful, it's so inspirational, and it just wants to inspire. But it can also get quite overly connected to their ideology and their worldview and their culture and those different things. So it's important for Jupiter in Sagittarius, any Sagittarius placement, but especially Jupiter, because this is where you get your most opportunity, your most growth, and your most kind of meaning out of life. It's really important for you to explore other cultures, other worldviews, other religions, other ideologies, other viewpoints, other perspectives. That's really what's most important, and that's why I think that's why so many people with Jupiter prominent will go into law, or will go into preaching something, teaching something, into politics, into studying many degrees, getting many cultural kind of connections, right? Philosophy is such a powerful thing when it's applied correctly. Theology is also really important. Any sort of religious connections are very important. It's important to find those answers in life, and Jupiter and Sag naturally will find those answers, and it's about what they do with those answers, right? It's like, if it's a gift, you're meant to give it. If you learn something and it really has value, and it really has something that can extract meaning and be taught to somebody, then why not do it? Then why not share it with the world, right? That's what Jupiter wants. Jupiter's like, let's share it, let's expand it, let's open people's minds, let's share our perspectives. And And then there's this aspect of Jupiter in Sag where it just has blind faith in what it's doing. That's one of the really beautiful things about Jupiter in its own sign. I do not have Jupiter in this placement. I had a very long conversation about my Jupiter in Virgo placement. You're welcome to check that video out, of course, to get a better idea of how my Jupiter works. But Jupiter in its own sign can have such a beauty and blind faith to it, where it just believes that it is kind of walking on clouds and it knows what it's doing is backed by faith. And it's backed by their ancestors a lot of the time. I think that's something that there's an interesting connection with Jupiter and ancestry. And you would think that it would be really related to like the 4th house or Cancer, but that's where Jupiter exalts. And Jupiter also rules like tradition and religion and philosophy and worldview and laws and legal battles and legal kind of proceedings. And a lot of those things are connected to our family and our heritage and what we kind of go through. And there's a reason Jupiter exalts in Cancer, and I did a whole Jupiter Cancer video, obviously, so check that out. But the cultural connection to our worldview is so important, and I think Jupiter has a natural affinity to our family, to what we believe in, and to following that. And I think that's why we find that people with prominent Jupiters, they have a very interesting family dynamic, but a very culturally rich family dynamic, and also they have almost a kind of this somewhat maternal sense to them in a way. And it's interesting to say that for a Jupiter thing, but it's almost like they want to, and this is like weird, but there's this sense of teachers and philosophers that are very maternal. And that's the thing. I think there's this trope in modern media, and all of us have probably experienced it once or twice in our lives. But there's that one teacher. There's that one teacher that just, whether it's in middle school, whether it's in high school, whether it's in primary school, secondary school, college, whatever it may be, but there's that one teacher. It's even in many, many forms of media as well. There's that one teacher who just leaves such an imprint on you, a deep imprint, because they're caring, because they see something in you, because they want to bring that out in you, they want to coach you, all those things. That is maternal. It's caring, it's family. It sees a mind and a purpose in somebody, and it nurtures that. And I think that is something that we don't talk about as much with Jupiter, is the kind of nurturing aspect that kind of comes into play when Jupiter is quite strong, because it wants to coach, it wants to teach, and all of those things come typically from a cultural, worldview that is pressed upon them from their family, and they want to take care of what they believe is family to them, and what they sense is family to them. And that can be someone who's just as intellectual or has purpose or has meaning. And the thing with a strong Jupiter is I think they find meaning in everyone and everything. And that sounds like such a large, broad, very Jupiter's domain, right? Very much like the meaning of life is everything. But, and they love everyone, and everyone has meaning, which is very Jupiter. But it is true. And I think that's why there's something in there about Jupiter's connection to teachers and mentors and gurus, where we have someone who has such a rich lived experience that they are able to then help others. And that's what Jupiter does. Jupiter just wants to help. It wants to teach. It wants to love. It wants to inspire. And that's a really big one for Jupiter and Sag. It wants to bring inspiration. It wants to bring that fire, bring that motivation to others, and plant those seeds or ignite those flames in others to make them want to go after their goals, make them want to be like them or to follow their truth, right? That's something I think is so powerful about someone whose belief is so strong. Yes, it can get preachy. Yes, it can get a lot. But when you think about someone whose presence is so impactful and so powerful and so meaningful, and you can see that meaning when they speak and when they perform, that is a strong Jupiter, and that leaves people feeling so inspired and so great and so like they can go and do what they need to do. And that's a strong Jupiter. That's a strong like kind of placement. That's why you see Jupiter associated with religious individuals and with people that are within, you know, like the preacher archetype, people that will tell a story and will inspire people. That's what Jupiter does. And in its own sign, it has such a strong faith and strong connection. And there is a very deep cultural roots here, and a rich cultural experience and a rich ideological experience. And if you don't have that as a Jupiter in Sag, study that, make that happen. Go after those things, explore those cultures, explore those worldviews, and go after all the things that you really, really want to study in a lot of ways. And so just know that that's something that when Jupiter's in its own sign has a lot of power here. And use your belief and your meaning wisely and your inspiration wisely, because you have a lot that you can bring out in people, and it's really beautiful to see what you are capable of when you are living in your faith, when you're walking in your faith, when you're walking in what you believe in. And I know faith is such a trigger word in a lot of spaces, and religion is such a triggering topic. But it's about believing in something and walking that every single day. And there's people that from all walks of life that do that. And it's about your worldview. It's about what you believe is what happens. And that's why I think it's really important when you have Jupiter really prominent to go and explore those different perspectives, explore those different worldviews, because those can be your saving grace and your come to Jesus moment. I didn't want to say that, but that's very much what it is. It's like this very philosophical, religious connection where you just feel that there is a bigger reason and a bigger purpose behind what you're doing. And you don't know what it is, but you have to just follow that. And you have to also teach that as you go through it. It's such a beautiful story when you have such a strong Jupiter. So I leave you with that. I leave you to just keep walking in your faith, walking in whatever you believe in. Even if, you know, and it's interesting if you're watching this video, I'm sure you have this Jupiter placement, I'm sure it's quite interesting to see. But your meaning that you prescribe to this, that you've gotten from this, and that you believe in astrology. And astrology is not something you can necessarily believe in. It just is in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of people get belief mixed up with just existing. And that's something that astrology can teach us, is that there's almost this, people believe in things, but there's a certain level of experience of life that we all go through that Jupiter can impart wisdom on. And that's how we find our meaning, is by living life and experiencing life and going through those things. So just wanted to leave you with that, my Jupiter Sag. And I hope this video helped you, and helped anyone that comes across it. I love doing this. This is my life, and I love being able to teach and preach. I have Mercury Jupiter quite loud in my chart, not Jupiter and Sag primary, but I have a lot to share, and I am so grateful to be able to teach and preach in my own Jupiterian way. And I appreciate you for being here, and I hope, like I said, I hope this helped you. I have everything down below if you're interested in booking with me, have questions about your chart, even want to comment about anything. I would love to hear your story if you have your Jupiter and Sag, if you would put that on there. And then without further ado, let's go into specifically what it means to have your Jupiter in the 9th house. Okay, so we have Jupiter in the 9th house. So Jupiter in the 9th house is going to function a little bit differently with the different signs that Jupiter is going to be in when it's in the 9th house. Jupiter in the 9th house. The 9th house is all about this place in our life where we're finding meaning, we're finding the purpose behind why we're here, we're figuring things out, we're studying things, we're going to college, we're doing things that support our career. And so whenever we have Jupiter kind of up towards the top of the chart, whether the 9th, the 10th, or the 11th house, we're going to have a lot of different things that are going to be public, that are going to be brought up, that are going to be something that might be more so a later in life kind of development. But the 9th house is kind of that time when we're about college age, and we're about like our early to mid 20s, and we're kind of really figuring out a lot of specifically what it is that we're here to do, why we want to study, what life path we want to take, those sorts of things. And so the Jupiter placement in that house can be really, really important. Overall, Jupiter in the 9th is going to definitely bring a lot of kind of abundance and opportunities as it relates to ninth house matters. So law, philosophy, worldview, meaning, right? They're going to be able to find meaning, and that's going to be a really big thing for a ninth house planet, is to find meaning throughout all their experiences, throughout all of what they've lived through. And Jupiter is going to really want you to do that, and you're going to find a lot of purpose through going through the specific legal issues that you may have to go through, or the different ideological kind of battles, or the different kind of purposeful things that you're going to have to go through within your life. They're going to have to learn how to kind of work with. Now, I'm going to talk about each Jupiter sign kind of briefly. I've talked about many signs prior to this. So I've talked about Jupiter in every single sign prior to Sagittarius. So I would recommend you watch those videos for sure prior to this, if you have your Jupiter in the ninth house, as well as look at the Jupiter's rulership. So if you have your Jupiter in a Martian ruled sign, look to your Mars. Jupiter in a Venus ruled sign, look to your Venus, so on and so forth. For a better idea within that, I am going to kind of touch on each of them a little briefly as I go through this here. Just kind of get like a little synopsis of what Jupiter can be like in that specific sign. But overall, Jupiter in the ninth just has a really specific quest for worldview and knowledge and philosophy and meaning and religion and all these things. It's going to keep trying to find the answers as to why. Why am I here? Why is this happening? All these sorts of things. And so as we go through these different Jupiter signs, you'll kind of see that all of them are really trying to find meaning and find purpose through whatever that Jupiter placement wants and how that Jupiter placement typically works. So let's start with Jupiter in a Martian ruled sign. So Jupiter in a Martian ruled sign, this is going to be the brave kind of students, the brave philosophers, the ones that are going after a lot of things in life. Jupiter in Aries is going to have a lot of kind of passion for being the first one to figure it out, to go and to take that risk and to find those things and to really have faith in themselves. A lot of what we see with Jupiter is a lot of understanding specifically our faith and our worldview and why we're here. But the thing that's really interesting about the ninth house is it is a natural trine to the ascendant, so it is going to naturally assist the ascendant in figuring out a lot of things, what it wants to do, why it's here, what its purpose is, and it's going to help kind of motivate that. So when we have Jupiter in Aries in that ninth house, it really does support a lot of things within this particular person's chart, and it allows them specifically to follow their own passion, their own drive, their own purpose, and figure out who they are as they go through that process of Aries, which is the self-actualization and kind of just trusting yourself and trusting your own life and kind of walking in faith, but more so in a faith and like a self kind of focused faith. Jupiter in Scorpio, a little bit different. This is going to be a very interesting, very intense relationship with mentors and religion and kind of whatever those kind of legal things are. That's something I find really interesting too. As someone who has Jupiter in the ninth house, the legal the legal battles as well as the philosophical like battles have always been something. I don't have Jupiter in Scorpio, but they've always been something that have really taught me a lot about why I'm here, right? And the thing about Jupiter in the ninth is it's all about really going through those legal things, going through different things that prescribe meaning. And when we have Jupiter in Scorpio or in a Martian sign, it's the battle, it's the fight, it's the going after and winning, whatever that kind of philosophical debate is, or maybe losing, right? Losing very deeply and then having to rebuild. And in a lot of ways, that's something that you can see with specifically more so Jupiter and Scorpio. But it's all about that willpower, all about that power, all about that belief and that kind of taking back that power from whatever belief system was kind of taking advantage of them with Jupiter and Scorpio and Jupiter and Aries. But both of them are about you, the individual, going after what you want, going after your goals, going after your own specific desires of what meaning and belief is for you. And it can be this kind of like pushing kind of energy in that regard, kind of forcefulness with Jupiter in those specific signs. Now, Jupiter in a Venusian sign, so in Taurus or Libra, this is going to be more of kind of a self-assured kind of belief and faith system. But the thing about this one, with more so Jupiter and Taurus, this is where you're going to see some very interesting like financial and financial, legal, custody, kind of like trying to find the funds for schooling. You can see this really prominent for like Jupiter and Taurus and Jupiter and Libra, where they get a lot of financial support, specifically from a lot of their people, and they get a lot of just kind of ability to reach their goals and what they want to study. And so the thing with Jupiter and Taurus, it's really important to know what specifically you believe in, right? Why you're here, why you believe what you believe, and have that be something that's like not just about making money, right? Jupiter and Taurus is very wealthy. It's very focused on the physical, tangible meaning of things, the physical, tangible kind of value of things, and those things have a lot of value. And I think with Jupiter, Taurus in the 9th, it's a lot about being able to maybe do something environmentally as well. There could be some environmental change, environmental laws that are kind of passed within this as well. Jupiter and Libra in that 9th house, this is going to have obviously a pretty nice relationship with the law. Typically when we have Jupiter and Libra, there can still be a lot of, this is where, although there's a good relationship with the law, they can kind of be brought into courtrooms quite often to learn, and they could just be going through a lot of legal stuff, but not necessarily like in a way that is difficult or hard or battle like. It's almost about they're going with their parent, right, or a mentor or a teacher that is a lawyer, right, or a court attorney. They're gonna kind of be brought into those spaces a lot more. And their partner, and whoever they partner with, whoever they connect with, whoever they marry, is going to give them a lot of meaning, a lot of purpose, a lot of perspective on what they believe and why they're here, what they're here to do, those sorts of things you'll see with the Jupiter and Libra. Obviously watch that video as well if you have that placement. Something I want to say to go back on really quick here is specifically Jupiter in Scorpio again. So if you have Jupiter in Scorpio, this one is going to have a lot more relevancy. I typically mention this as I'm going through this, but I didn't catch myself quick enough. Jupiter in Scorpio in the 9th house is going to be your chart ruler. So you are going to be typically a Pisces rising with Jupiter in that 9th house there in Scorpio. So you yourself, being the Pisces rising, are going to be brought into that 9th house, which this is where you'll see a lot of your own internal battle with your worldview, your meaning, your purpose, those sorts of things. The chart ruler has a lot more prominence in the chart than other placements. And so when you are Pisces rising, Jupiter in Scorpio in the 9th house, you're going to have a lot of personal kind of philosophical battles in a lot of ways with that specific placement, of learning more so about how it is that you believe your world to be, you want your world to be, those sorts of things. And so there's definitely an interesting relationship with mentors, gurus, teachers, those sorts of things. Make sure you watch, if you do have that placement, watch the Jupiter Scorpio video I made, please, because there's a lot of context there about taking the power back from oppressive systems and oppressive kind of belief-oriented power structures and those things. So take your power back, do that thing. It's gonna be very personal to you, very freeing for you as well to be able to do that. Moving on from the Jupiter, kind of backtrack to do that there. Now we have Jupiter and Mercury ruled signs, so Jupiter in Gemini and Virgo. Obviously this is not where Jupiter is that comfortable, but in the 9th house, this can make them very intelligent around teaching things, the laws of the universe, philosophy, religion, spirituality can also be a 9th house topic. I personally have my Jupiter and Virgo in the 9th house, and I have gone through both a lot of spiritual kind of breaking apart, reconfiguring, and kind of reanalyzing, and really digesting a lot of very complex spiritual topics, as well as a lot of very complex legal topics in a lot of ways. So there has been a lot of that within my own personal experience that Jupiter has in the 9th house, but I've had a lot of learning and a lot of advocacy that I have been able to do because of that Jupiter in that 9th house. That has allowed me a lot of connections in both the spiritual space and within the legal space to help me kind of navigate and then help others navigate that as well. So it's a really powerful placement in the 9th house. It does make your worldview very hard to pin down, because Jupiter in its exile is not really that happy. So it has to kind of really break apart those worldviews and really figure those things out. Jupiter in Gemini is a little bit different in that ninth. It's going to have more of kind of a collection thing. So there could be a lot of things going on at once with Jupiter in Gemini. A lot of legal things, a lot of different perspectives, a lot of books, a lot of study, and a lot of things that are very much like all over the place as it relates to the worldview, their culture. There can be a sense of like studying a lot of different things and not really knowing how to put them all together. That's what you can tend to see with Jupiter in Virgo, Jupiter in Libra in that ninth, where there's not really a clear picture of what it is that this person is studying. It takes some time to figure those things out. Luckily, for my own chart, I have a nice Jupiter Mercury mutual reception, so it's helped me a lot figure out those things for me. But if I didn't have that, very different story. Anyway, moving on from there, Jupiter exalted in Cancer and Jupiter in Leo. Exalted Jupiter in the ninth. This is a great placement. For obvious reasons, this just makes you really great legal support. Typically, your family support is definitely a big thing. Your maybe there's something around specifically citizenship or immigration policies or immigration in general, and working through that process and helping through that process. And there's something about the family kind of system that is really supportive for you and your worldview in that way. And then Jupiter in Leo. This is going to be Jupiter in the sun sign. So this is going to be a pretty prominent, pretty bright kind of person. This is someone that goes to school to be the first of their family to kind of study and go after things in that way, and be the one that is, you know, the breadwinner, or be the one that is the token kind of student with a token master's degree or PhD, right? That's what you can see here. I did mention this in other Sagittarius ninth house videos, but it is important to think about like this is with Jupiter and Cancer in the ninth, and also somewhat Jupiter and Leo in the ninth, where there's a very strong imprint from the family to do what you need to do. So this is why you can see people that are going to be doctors and lawyers and studying those things that are very ninth housey in nature, from a stressor from the worldview or the culture that they're within. So just know that's part of it as well when we have Jupiter in Cancer, more so than Jupiter in Leo, but same with Jupiter in Leo. There's like a wanting to be seen as the savior of the family, or the savior with their belief systems, and kind of be adored. This is where you can see someone that becomes specifically a professor in a lot of ways, or someone that is a preacher, a TED Talk, those sorts of things. You can see that. And studies a lot of different things. That's what Jupiter does in the ninth as well. They can also want to be once again, with kind of like with Jupiter in Aries, they want to be their own guiding light in a lot of ways, versus Jupiter in Cancer is having their family be their guiding light as well as themselves. But yeah, just go in that regard. Then Jupiter in its own sign, Jupiter in Sag. Obviously did this video here, just a lot of overabundance of the same thing. If we have Jupiter in Sagittarius, Jupiter in Pisces, this is where we're going to get a little bit of a mixture of worldviews and kind of a need to discern in a lot of ways. A really intense desire for intuition and learning a lot of different things, but they can definitely get lost in different belief systems and really synthesize a bit too quickly, as opposed to applying them. And then with Jupiter and Sag, there is a sense of application of worldviews really, really quickly, without necessarily synthesizing them as well. So that's why it's important to look to other parts of the chart like Mercury and Saturn to get a better idea for those specific placements as well. And then we have Jupiter in, I meant to mention, God, do it again. Jupiter is in retrograde right now while I'm recording this, so this makes sense. But going back in it again, Jupiter in Leo. The one that this is interesting, once again, this is going to be a Jupiter ruled chart. So Sagittarius rising with Leo in the ninth house, so Jupiter in the ninth. So you become really philosophical. You become the one that is brought to teach in a lot of ways. This is a really powerful placement. This becomes a really, really, really powerful chart as it relates to worldviews and teaching, all those things, especially because it's very fiery. And it's not like the other one that we had where we had Jupiter in, Scorpio for Pisces rising. This is Jupiter in Leo for Sag risings. And yeah, this is just a really great chart. There's something about this, I don't know, and it's funny because this is how strong this placement is. I don't know this much about like yogas within Vedic astrology, but I have a feeling that the Jupiter in Leo in the ninth house connected to the ascendant has some really, really fortunate kind of alignment within Vedic astrology specifically. I just have that really strong sense. There's like a really supportive aspect there. But anywho, with Jupiter in Leo in the ninth, you become the guiding light. You become, and that's why the sun sign's especially important for this chart, just because the sun rules that ninth. So you would really want to look to see what's going on with that sun sign to get an idea of where you are, where all of you is kind of believing you need to talk about, right? So if, for example, we had a Sag rising with Jupiter in the ninth and in Leo, and then we had a sun in, you know, Aquarius, for example, you would have someone who is very much about teaching and preaching their own story and kind of making a story out of all the different beliefs. So you could have a lot of philosophical writers with this particular alignment here. And there's a lot of you learning a lot of things. There's a lot of you wanting to be the teacher. You wanting to be the one that's on stage, be the one that teaches the things, that spreads the knowledge, those sorts of things. But the sun sign is really important to see where you are specifically kind of wanting to be seen for, what you're wanting to be seen for, right? If it's in Cancer, you're going to want to be seen as very, very nurturing and caring and motherly in a lot of ways. And that is going to be really supportive. It's going to also be in the 8th. So there's a lot of different things with this. I don't want to go too deep into this specific example, but you get my point. If the Jupiter in Leo becomes really important and really prominent, this is a very powerful chart if you have that one. Now, finally, Jupiter in Saturn ruled signs, so Jupiter in Capricorn and Aquarius. These two ones in the 9th, Jupiter in Aquarius, this is where you see someone that has gone through specifically like things of homelessness or cultural or community kind of abandonment or community issues or community involvement, and has a rich community in general. Jupiter Aquarius is a very rich community-driven sign in the 9th house, but by them being able to see how the system or the law or the meaning or the purpose is not helping the entire community, they become more motivated to learn more about it, to learn more about how it could be, how it could help others. Jupiter in Aquarius is an amazing, amazing advocate for so many different causes. And in the 9th house, it's really like the humanities kind of advocate in a lot of ways. It's really beautiful. And so there is an aspect of bringing in a lot of community support and community law and kind of grants and those sorts of kind of nonprofits can be very Jupiter Aquarius in the 9th, but legal kind of advocacy for groups is a really big thing we can see here. And then Jupiter in Capricorn, this is obviously Jupiter's fall. So this is where you can see a lot more of the outdated belief systems when we see Jupiter in Capricorn here, where there's just a really, really, really kind of old-fashioned approach to their worldview that needs to really be changed in a lot of ways. Obviously, in the same regard, look to your Saturn placement. All Jupiter signs should look to their Saturn placement just to get a better idea of what the other side of that coin is and how you're bringing those beliefs into fruition and those beliefs into form. So just be aware of that, of kind of like connecting the Jupiter-Saturn kind of combinations, and because there is a really deep importance to understand where your meaning and purpose lies, especially if you do have Jupiter in Capricorn, to know specifically what your belief system is and know what your what worldview you have had. And especially pre-Saturn return, you don't typically have a really deep understanding of your specific worldview, or what needs to believe rather from your worldview. So there can be some capitalistic or some outdated or some very hierarchical, like I want to be the top of something kind of way of looking at things. So just be aware of your Jupiter in Capricorn if you do have that, and where that kind of can come from. But there is a sense with Jupiter in Capricorn. If you do have it, obviously wait till next season and we'll talk about it. But there is a sense of really having beliefs that further keep you stable and having long-term beliefs, right? Long-term meanings, or a life that is consistently building your belief system over time, and building that foundational structure and building those things and not necessarily really having them imparted on you really, really strongly. So that's something you can see here in the 9th house. And there could be some interesting careers in law as well, as Jupiter's kind of taken a long time to build its support in Capricorn. So there could be some businesses in publishing, businesses in law, businesses in things relative to 9th house. So, you know, higher education, teaching, philosophy, those sorts of things. It can be very 9th house law. Obviously, I've spoken on that many times. So yeah, that's really the most of Jupiter signs. So I hope this really helps all of you. I know this is kind of like a lot of yapping here. But yeah, I love what I do. I love this. This has been such a fun video. Jupiter in the 9th and Sagittarius is such a optimistic, amazing, strong placement in so many different ways. And I really hope that any of you that watch this enjoyed this. This is such a fun series to be doing. I am so grateful to be able to be here and just talk about this stuff and kind of impart my wisdom to all of you. As a 9th house Jupiter myself, I enjoy kind of imparting my own belief into the world through the work that I do, right? With it being Virgo for my own personal placement, and allowing my own meaning and purpose to be able to help others and to be of service. So I hope this was of service to you. I hope this helped you. And if you're interested in anything with me, feel free to check those things down below. Obviously, if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe. All those things are going to help me do what I'm doing here. And yeah, and then obviously, I also have the playlist down below. You're welcome to check that out. I have all the different videos I've done down there as well prior to the Sagittarius and 9th house series. So make sure to check those out if you have anything prior to Sagittarius and 9th house, because those will be down there for you. And I hope this helped you. Like I said, I appreciate you. I love you. And I will see you guys in the next one. We're talking about specifically Venus in Sagittarius. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.